What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the Early Edge College Football Live Show, Week 9 edition. I am your host, Alan Bell, and we have a fantastic show lined up for today, as always. But before we look forward, take a look at how we did last week and the story. Micah Roberts, my man, ripping off, 5-1 right there. Also nailed some picks on our Saturday Early Edge show. He was all over it. As a show, our guys sit, let's bring in the stars of the show here. As a show, we literally sit 50% on the year, right there. 50%, but right now, it's for the taking. So first off, Micah Roberts, looking sharp, sir. How we doing?
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here with you guys, and let's take that number up a notch. Let's go this week, go further. What do we want? We want 58, 60%? Maybe this week, next week, we go on a run, and let's do it.
Well, you know what? It's like a college football coach. Like, now is the time where you start just hammering it in, right? You get ready for that college football playoff run. Feel like that's what the show is doing as well. Tom Fornelli, always looking good, sir. How we doing?
It's been a couple rough weeks for me on the show. I've spent all week in the film room grinding tape, just trying to find ways to be better, 1% better every day. And I think this week we're going to break through. So I'm really looking forward to it.
That's how you do it, man. Chip Patterson, what's up, buddy?
I mean, we're doing good. You know, this is a really, we'll get into it, but this is a fantastic week. Everyone says like, oh, there's no good games. Oh, look what they put in the national window. It's like, look. There is so much meat on this bone for us to pick apart. Fired up for week 9.
I love it, man. And our man, Jake Fender, the Fed Show. First off, how we doing, sir? And what did you see from the SportsLine model from last week?
We're doing pretty good. We're feeling good, and we've had some tough luck. I was talking to AB just right before the show, and we're saying how if you play my lines on like alternate lines, then you'd be killing it. But I'm just missing all these games by 1 or 2 points every single week. But we'll bounce back. The big trend in the database this week is money line value. We have a ton of money line value, not necessarily point spread value. We have value on Wake Forest, we have value on UNC, and a couple others that I will get to later.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know what? Let's get to the storylines that affect the betting lines for today or for this week. And what you're saying, Chip, I kind of feel like this somewhat plays in to your storyline. Week 9, trap week. Break it down. What do you got?
Trap week. That's right. We're talking booby traps. That's right. We're talking trap doors. This is the spot where your favorite top 25 team is going to be in trouble because 8 top 25 teams are on the road facing an unranked team. Hostile environment, opponent, coach, players that all they want to do is beat a ranked team for their home fans. You are in trouble. And the odds makers know this. 6 of those 8 games have single-digit spreads, and we've even got a couple of them that are toss-ups or even the home team that is unranked might be favorite. I mean, look at number 7, TCU at West Virginia. Have you ever seen a frog skin hat? You might if West Virginia is able to take down TCU. You've got number 8, Oregon at Cal. That's a bear trap. You've got number 10, Wake Forest at Louisville. That is a WikiLeaks hack and trap. You've got number 10, USC at Arizona. Road game off a bye trap. Number 14, Utah at Washington State. Weeknight road game is where a ranked team goes to die. Look out, Utes. Number 15, Ole Miss at Texas A&M. Double hangover, angry Aggies trap. Plus, you've got the number 17 Illinois Fighting Illini at Nebraska. That's a corn maze. And number 20 Cincinnati at UCF. Gus's offense is literally built with trap doors. Trap. Everywhere you look is traps.
All right, so we're going to have to go ahead and clip that because that is going to live forever on the Early Edge YouTube page. Well done, sir. Well done on that. All right, Micah, coming over to you. Update us, man. The Heisman Trophy. We've seen a lot of change. Well, a lot of change behind essentially number 1, right? Yeah. What are you looking at? What are we seeing? Who's up there now?
Well, just looking at Caesar's sportsbook odds to win. CJ Stroud, obviously, $5 favorite. Some value there. You're looking at his numbers, 28 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, pretty good so far, 70% passing. And then right next below him is Hendon Hooker at 2-1. And it's a 2-horse race, really. And you look at him, he's 70%, 18 touchdowns, 1 interception, but he's got that big win that I think really lured a lot of these people in. Big games, big upset, beat Alabama. I think that goes a long way with the voters. So I could take Hooker right now and think I would do pretty well at the end. unless CJ Stroud has this huge game against Michigan and he's the last one kind of standing there. But maybe he has a bad game, and maybe that's where Hooker takes off. Anyway, after that, it's Caleb Williams is next at 11-1, 19 TDs. Blake Corum at 12-1. Bo Nix 25-1. Bryce Young 25-1, and then Spencer Sanders, Max Duggan, and Sam Hartman all at 40-1 each. Guys, I'm in for Hooker right now. That would be my vote if I was voting.
Dude, I'll tell you this. If Tennessee finds a way to beat Georgia, look out. Look out. But, as Chip mentioned, trap games, man. They got to take care of Kentucky first this week. All right. Fornelli, coming over to you. All right. Now, this is one I definitely want to hear about. Rivalries versus analytics. Hit that one.
Yeah, it's not all that indifferent from what Chip was saying about trap games, in that if you look at the schedule this week, there are a couple big rivalries on the schedule between Michigan and Michigan State, Georgia and Florida, and they both have something in common in that one of the teams, Georgia and Michigan, are ranked in the top 4, top 5, looking like playoff contenders, while neither Florida or Michigan State have lived up to expectations and, in fact, have fallen below expectations. So when you look at how the teams have played, and you look at the numbers analytically, you kind of understand why the spreads for both games are as large as they are. But I'm just a little worried. I'm a little scared because we see in rivalry games like this every single year where when you're a Michigan State or you're a Florida and you don't have a conference title to play for, you don't have a national championship to play for, these games tend to become your Super Bowls. So you kind of want to look at these situations and don't just look at it from the analytical perspective. Got to take in line what's in play for these underdogs. And sometimes it's a 22-point spread, but in reality, it's only going to be a 10-point game. So it's just one of those things I like to keep my eye on in weeks like this, where, like Chip was saying, there aren't a lot of marquee matchups, but there are some tricky spots out there.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. Absolutely. And, like you said, in terms of like the Super Bowl, that's absolutely. Look at the Florida-Georgia history alone, right? That one has shown. Yeah, definitely, man. All right, let's get into our best bets for the week. And, Chip, start with you, man. Nice ACC battle here on an over. What do you got?
We looking at North Carolina, Pittsburgh?
Yeah. Sorry, I should have led you into that. Yeah, I don't know why I assumed that you could read my brain there. So, I'm not operating on week 9 level. Yes, that one.
All right, so I really don't need a lot of time to tell you to take a North Carolina over, right? I mean, we're top 10 offense, bottom 10 defense. But here's what stands out to me. It's a man by the name of Israel Abanikanda, because Izzy gets loose on almost everybody that he plays. He even had a $129 while his team only had 10 points because Keaton Slovis threw 2 interceptions and they had a scoop and score the other way for Louisville and a loss to the Cardinals. This Pitt team is going to rely on Izzy Abanikanda to bring a physical rushing attack, bring the fight to North Carolina. Now, North Carolina's defense faced a similar physical rushing attack, at least in terms of its approach, against Notre Dame earlier this year. What happened? Oh, yeah, they got bowled over and through by Notre Dame. That North Carolina defense against Notre Dame was coming off a bye week. That North Carolina defense against Pittsburgh is coming off a bye week. They're also missing their veteran defensive tackle, Ray Vahasek. That group better stand up and figure out a way to play so much tougher against the run than they have done earlier this season, or else North Carolina is going to let the Coastal Division slip away. Now, it's a 3-point spread, coin flip of a game. I don't want any part of the side, but I think that Drake May, who guarantees us 5 total touchdowns pretty much every time he gets on the field, and Izzy Abanikanda for Pitt, who can get 3 to 5 touchdowns as well on the ground, I think they give us points, so we go over the total.
There we go, man. Now, I'll tell you what. Fetcho, I'm going to throw it over to you. You've got an official play on this game as well. You're taking North Carolina -3. Break that down.
Yeah, for the reasons that Chip said, that they might not be able to stop Izzy Abanikanda, that does scare me. UNC's defense definitely scares me, but the big difference here is the quarterback play. I trust Drake May a lot more than I trust Slovis. And UNC is a perfect 6-0 against Pittsburgh in Chapel Hill. Pitt's won the last 2 games, but both of those games were in Pitt. With the line was at 4.5, with it down at 3, I think there's good value on the spread. I think UNC is the better team. I think if they could stop the run, get 1 or 2 stops, I think they win just because their offense is much better than Pitt's.
There we go. All right. Well said there. All right. Fornelli, coming over to you. All right. You've got an official play here. We've got Wake Forest, a 4-point favorite on the road at Louisville. You got Wake Forest -4, man. Bring it up.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, this Chip went through a week, but I don't see much of a trap here for Wake Forest because I think that this line is off because Chip, you mentioned it when you were talking about that Pitt Louisville game last week. Louisville won the game 24-10, but 7 of their points came on a defensive score, and offensively, Louisville was bad last week, and it's been bad most of the season, even with Malik Cunningham, and he's been in and out of the lineup because of injuries, but just they can't find any consistency on that side of the ball. And when I look at a matchup like this one, and spoiler alert, maybe for a game we'll be talking about later in the show, Wake Forest is a very explosive offense that will put up points on anybody, and maybe you could slow it down, but you're not going to stop it. So when I look at these kind of games, I have to decide, can this other team with the bad offense keep pace? I don't think Louisville can keep pace with Wake, even though defensively it's solid and it might slow them down. I think you can get away with it against teams like Pitt, which are horrible offensively and sometimes don't even seem to be willing to score. But in this one, I think Wake is just going to have too much for them on offense. I don't think Louisville is going to be able to stop them. And I just look at this also matchup, and Chip, you mentioned it too. WikiLeaks a few years ago. Obviously, a lot of people involved in that situation are no longer around. But if you think Dave Clawson's forgotten about it and he's not going to take a chance to run it up on Louisville every chance he gets as long as he's at Wake Forest, you're kidding yourself. So take the Deacons, lay the points. They're the much better team in this spot.
And we just heard Chip. As soon as you said that, Chip got fired up, all right, because he also is saying Wake Forest -4. So break it down, man. Keep it going.
All right. Everything that Tom just said, we broke down. We might have been the only two people that broke down the Louisville Pitt tape. I think we realized that on Monday's Cover 3. We both had a lot of notes on it, and we were both obviously spinning it forward here. A game that did not get a lot of attention on Saturday, but certainly revealed a lot to us about where Louisville is offensively. So I'll just throw this to the Wake Forest side of things. There are 3 quarterbacks in the entire country who have 20 or more touchdowns and also average 9 yards attempt or more. C.J. Stroud, Drake May, and Sam Hartman for Wake Forest. This is one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. This is one of the best passing attacks in the entire country. And I think that the reason that they haven't been getting more attention is just because they've been playing lopsided opponents. I mean, we are not going to talk about you a lot when you beat Army 45-10, when you beat Boston College by a whole bunch, when you have an off week. It has been about a month, but that team has not slowed down one bit. Hartman is playing at another level. I like Wake Forest to be able to win this game by a touchdown or more.
Also,
right.
I want to add one more thing to that too. After last week's win against Boston College, Dave Clawson was especially salty with the media this week, talking about how everybody's writing his team off, saying how, after all these guys graduate, I'm sure we're going to go back to being terrible. And he was pumping up Sam Hartman, saying this is a kid who finished second in the second team all ACC last year, but came into this season considered like the 5th best quarterback in the conference. One of the quarterbacks that was considered better than Sam Hartman at the beginning of the year,
Cunningham.
Malik Cunningham. There's a whole lot of motivation going into this one.
Hammer.
You know what, AB? Add me to that. I'm on Wake -4. Give me,
Look at him.
Give me some stock in the claw fence over here.
There we go. All right, Fettner's on that one as well. All right, Micah, coming over to you, my man. We've got Northwestern at Iowa. You're on the under 37.5. Break that down.
I mean, you can't go over, right? I mean, the number 37 and it went up to 37.5. Okay, good luck with that. I just don't see it here. I mean, we're talking about, ugly. The last 5 meetings have gone under. Last season, it was 17-12. Iowa all season long, under 5 of their 7 games, under their last 4 home games. And the other one is Spencer Petras. I mean, this guy really, this is his 5th year. I mean, there's got to be somebody out there that can do better than 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, passing for 53%. How does this guy keep his job? I don't understand it. And it's just they have this ugly offense, and this is going to be one of those games that's probably going to be a 13-7, 13-10. I don't know if Northwestern will score. It's going to be an under. Low-scoring game again for Iowa and that impressive offense.
There we go. Okay, now throwing it back over, Fettner, to you, because you also have a play on this game. It pretty much goes with what Micah was just saying. The Iowa team total under 23.5. Break that down.
Yeah, so 4 of the last 5 meetings between Iowa and Northwestern have been at 31 points or less. I don't care if Iowa's playing Northwestern State. They should not have a team total above 20 points. Their offense is brutal. They did put in Alex Padilla to back up Spencer Petras. He came in, and he was a turnover machine as well. I just don't see them scoring many points. Northwestern doesn't have their typical defense with those dominant linebackers. I don't see Iowa scoring either way.
Yeah, that seems to be a running trend here, right? Yeah, we don't see Iowa scoring. So I think that's a T-shirt right there. All right, Chip, coming back at you, man. We got a Big Ten battle going on this week. Rutgers at Minnesota. Speaking of unders, you're on the under 41.
Yeah, Minnesota is a team that I do think defensively has been a little bit exposed as the schedule has gotten tougher, but it's still a good defense. I think they're very well coached. And Rutgers offense, I mean, I guess we've taken baby steps forward from awful to like slightly okay. I think that ends up being a little bit of a stalemate, works out for the under. And then on the other side, like Minnesota, the best thing it does is run the ball. And Rutgers has one of the 4 or 5 better run defenses in the Big Ten. They're not playing at the level of Illinois right at the top of the conference, but they are in that sort of next tier, about top 4, top 5 in a lot of different rushing defense metrics. And so I see Minnesota running the ball a lot, Rutgers doing a decent job against it, and then Minnesota totally stuffing out Rutgers from finding the end zone. Just feels like a good bounce back spot. Minnesota playing at home, just got thumped by Penn State. And the bounce back for Minnesota is probably to win this game like 31-3. So give me the under.
There we go. I hope it comes in exactly like that. Just exact same scores. You just nailed it. All right, Fornelli, coming over to you, man. Going out West Coast here. We've got, let's see, Oregon at Cal. Oregon, a 17.5-point favorite. You're going the opposite side. Cal plus 17.5, man. Break it up.
Trap week. Yes. I think this is just a really tough spot for Oregon because they just came off the huge win last week against UCLA, and it is far and away the biggest win of Dan Lanning's tenure at Oregon. He's in his first season there. And I think that after you pick up that win, now you're going on the road against a Cal team that you're probably going to beat, and it's easy to see a letdown coming, and I think it's a big test for Dan Lanning, who, like I said, this is his first year as a head coach. He hasn't been in a situation like this before, and I think that it's natural to think that there could be some kind of a letdown going into this game because Cal does have a very good defense and can maybe take away some of the stuff that Oregon was able to get away with against UCLA last week. And also, if you look at the numbers and you look closer, it's like it was a 2-score game, but it really wasn't a 2-score win. Oregon was just managed to steal a possession with that onside kick and took advantage of it to make it look more lopsided than it actually was. Defensively, the Ducks still have plenty of problems, so I wouldn't be surprised if Cal is able to move the ball a bit in this game and at least keep it close, if it could slow down the Ducks defensively. And I also think that Bo Nix, I mean, I got to give the kid credit. He's playing fantastic. He's playing the best stretch of games in his career, but he's still Bo Nix. I got to believe that there's still stupid stuff coming our way. He's going to make a mistake here. So, yeah, I think I don't think Oregon's losing this game. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're going to cover 17.5. I think this is going to be a 10 to a 14-point win.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that if there's any game on the slate, on the schedule, that has hangover written all over it, it's this one. I 100% agree with you.
And it's literally at 12:30. It is a brunch bear trap.
Oh, yeah, even more. Yeah, absolutely, dude. 100%. All right, Fettner, coming over to you, man. Go to the Big Ten. You got Nebraska hosting Illinois. You're going Nebraska team total under 20.5. Break that one down, man.
Yeah, so we have an A pick in the computer model on the under, but I like it because I think Nebraska is going to score under 20 points. The only team that scored above 14 points all season against Illinois was Indiana, and that was in week 2. They've been dominant ever since. Trey Palmer destroyed Purdue last week. I don't see him doing that against Illinois. They'll shut him down. I just don't trust Nebraska's offense to do much. They only put up 14 points against Rutgers or 13 points against Rutgers. I think Illinois takes care of business. I like the team total under here.
There we go, man. There we go. All right, now, Chip, coming over to you, buddy. We got a Pac-12 matchup here. We've got Utah, Washington State. Now, is this game on Friday?
Thursday.
Okay, Thursday. This is going to be a good game, man. Like, I can't wait to watch this one. You like the over 55 in this?
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a spot where we get to see whether or not 2 theories. Number one, that Utah's defense, while they are like really, really strong in the pass defense, how they are going to look going on the road, because they still did give up a lot of points to Caleb Williams in this USC offense. And then number 2, whether Cam Ward, the quarterback for Washington State, whether he's going to be able to move the ball against this Utah team. Like, there's a scenario where I think that Cam Rising and, leads this Utah team in, and they come out with like kind of a comfortable 7 to 10 point victory. But there's also a scenario where Washington State puts Utah in a very difficult position. When I try to apply the trap game protractor and I'm drawing down to figure out what's going to happen when Utah has to go into Pullman on a Thursday night, I come out thinking that this ends up being a little bit more high scoring. So I go over 55.
There we go, man. There we go. All right. Fornelli, coming over to you. Big Ten. We've got Michigan State at Michigan. Now, you're playing a team total here as well. Love it. Michigan State team total under 16.5. What do you see?
Yeah, as I mentioned at the top of the show, when it comes to rivalry games like this, it's hard to predict exactly what's going to happen because Michigan State has all the motivation in the world to go out there and beat Michigan. And right now, maybe the Wolverines have bigger fish to fry. But I just don't think the Spartans are going to score a whole lot of points in this game, even if they manage to keep it close or pull off the upset, because they haven't really scored many points against anybody since they got into Big Ten play. They struggled against Minnesota, only putting up 7 points against a Minnesota defense that's been kind of, bad the last few weeks and not nearly as good as we thought early in the season. They only put up 13 against Maryland, a team that's been bleeding points to every single team it plays. They put up 20 against Ohio State, but a lot of those came in garbage time or really after Ohio State was in control of the outcome. And although they did score 34 against Wisconsin, it was the first road game for Jim Leonhard as an interim coach, and maybe they took advantage of that spot there. And I think going against this Michigan defense on the road, Michigan is one of the best defenses in the country. If you look at stop rate, which is just how many drives are you on defense without allowing the other team to score, they are the best defense in the country, and that teams just don't put up points on the Wolverines. And I don't see this Michigan State offense really being built to take advantage of any weaknesses that the Wolverines defense has. I think Michigan's got the far stronger defensive line. I think they have an advantage in the secondary over Michigan State's receivers, and I don't think Michigan State is good enough in the ground to really get anything going consistently against this defense. So it is going to be a struggle for them all day to move the ball. They're going to need the defense to force turnovers, give them short fields. But on the other side, Michigan is pretty conservative with the ball, and they're strong, and they're very good at taking care of the ball and not turning it over. So I just don't see a whole lot of things going the Spartans offense way in this one. So instead of taking the spread or instead of taking the total in case Michigan gets feisty and wants to run it up and hits the over, I would rather be on Michigan State's team total under.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant way to go about it. And, with Michigan, man, like they are – dude, it's weird to say that a top 5 team, it's kind of like not saying disrespected, but kind of overlooked. Michigan is a good football team. Like, they remind me of Georgia. Like, they kind of play the same style of they're going to run the football. You know exactly what they're going to do. And in the second half, they're just going to beat the hell out of you. Like, good luck. You're going to have to fight them. And I don't know which side you want to deal with, the defense or the offense, because the defense is definitely legit. The offense can run it down your throat. Penn State found that out. Yeah, man. Michigan, that's a good football team. All right, our last pick on this segment right here, because our man Micah, I know we haven't heard from him in a second. He always goes big game hunting. We're about to hear a lot from our man here. Fetner, last one. All right, we got Colorado State at Boise State. You've got the under 43. Break that one.
So this is a matchup of this year's Under King versus last year's Under King. Colorado State's games are perfect 7-0 on the under. And then last year, Boise's games went 9-2-1 on the under, hit at 82%. Since 2017, unders in Bronco Stadium and the blue turf are hitting at a 60% rate. If you've been watching Boise, they've become like a triple option team since Dirk Cutter's taken over. With Hank Bachmeier transferring, they've been running the ball every play with Taylon Green and their stud freshman Ashton Jeanty. Colorado State, they brought in Norvell from Nevada to be a air raid coach, but they're running the ball too. They're just giving to Avery Morrow every play. I think this is going to be a matchup that both teams are going to keep the ball on the ground. I like the under here a lot.
I'll say this, man. My only take on this game is that I refuse to believe that Dirk Cutter is a real name. I'm sorry. I refuse to, ever since he was in the NFL, I refuse to believe that that's a real, actual name that someone handed out. Dirk, I'm sorry. Sorry there. All right, everybody, let's take a quick break and hear from one of our partners. And we are back. All right, let's get into our big 6 games of the week. And Micah, coming right at you, buddy. I need to hear you. I want to hear your thoughts. Official play. So we've got Notre Dame at 16th ranked Syracuse. Syracuse a 2.5-point favorite, total of 48. Micah, you're officially on Syracuse -2.5. Break that down.
Yeah, and Notre Dame's got all kinds of great trends, like 5-0 ATS their last 5 against the ACC, 10-1 ATS their last 11 in a road game facing a winning home team. And I look at it, it's like, yeah, but this team isn't as good as past Notre Dame teams. I mean, really, Notre Dame is, I don't want to say mediocre, just a notch above mediocre, but not where we expected them, not where we've seen this Notre Dame team the last couple of years competing so well. This team is, well, they beat UNLV last week. That's impressive, but they didn't cover. They lost to Stanford, no cover there as well. They've only covered 3 of their 7 games, so they are performing way lower than expected by the odds makers. And I'm looking at their wins: BYU, UNC, Cal, and UNLV. That is not a very impressive lineup there. And meanwhile, I got Syracuse fired up, 6-1 against the spread. Tough game last week, but they got the cover. And average score this season, 33-15. That number 13 defense, 294 yards per game. I think that's going to give Notre Dame some trouble as well. And number 6 in the nation, only allowing 15 points per game. So I think the Syracuse team is still fired up. I think the quarterback, better quarterbacking with Garrett Schrader, 13 TDs, only 4 interceptions on the season, moving the ball very effectively and running clock out. So we might take a look at the under as well. I was looking at that, but I like the Syracuse side at home better in this spot.
There we go. All right, now, not official plays, but Chip and Fentner, you both lean the same way, Syracuse -2.5. So Chip, run it. Fentner, follow him up.
Yeah, the Notre Dame trends work out really well against unranked ACC teams, against ranked ACC teams. They actually have a losing record. Now, what's the worthy of a ranking? You know, at what time of the season did they play them? All these things are absolutely valid comments, but I think Syracuse is a good football team. I think that their competitiveness against Clemson was not a Clemson issue, but rather a reflection of the Orange's strength. Not an official play, but the Dome's electric. Why would I bet against it?
There you go. Feder.
Yeah, the Dome is electric. I was close to having this as an official play, but the Notre Dame trends did scare me. But those trends were with Brian Kelly. This team isn't as good. I think Garrett Schrader is playing much better than Drew Pine. I trust Syracuse a little more. The Dome is going to be electric. I like Syracuse to win this game.
All right. Now, our man Tom Fornelli, he also has an official play in this game, and he's going contrarian here. Other side, Notre Dame +2.5.
Sorry, boys, but you're all about to take a loss. Listen, Notre Dame offensively has not been good this year. Nobody's going to argue anything otherwise, but defensively, the team's still pretty dang good. And I think that going into this game, they have the better defense of the two teams. I look at Syracuse. They've been great against the pass, and that helps them against most teams, but it's not going to do a whole lot for them against Notre Dame, which is not really a throwing team anyway. And we saw last week, Clemson was able to run on the Orange team and move the ball and help them, come back and win that game. And I think while Notre Dame's rushing attack has struggled most of the season, this is probably going to be the game in which they actually have the ability to get right, because Syracuse has been that bad against the run. On the other side, Garrett Schrader's having a good season, but if you look at the pressure rate allowed, Syracuse is actually one of the worst offenses in the country in that aspect. And Notre Dame is one of the top 20 defenses when it comes to pressure rate from its defense. I think they're going to be able to get after Schrader. I think they're going to put him under pressure. And I think that that's going to be bad news for the Orange. I don't think this is going to be a high scoring game. I think it's going to be kind of low scoring, kind of ugly, and kind of a rock fight. And that makes Notre Dame and the 2.5 points really attractive in this option. Honestly, I like them to win outright too, but I'm going to take the points.
There you go. All right. Now, speaking of a game that could be a little lower scoring, at least what our guys think, we've got Florida versus number 1 ranked Georgia. Georgia, 22.5 point favorite, total of 56.5. We have 2 official plays here. Micah, go first. You like the under 56.5 here?
Yeah, I do. And I kind of like Georgia a little bit as well, but the under to me looked more attractive. Probably going to have rain, 76% humidity. Last I checked, 71 degrees. It's going to be a atmosphere for certain. World's largest cocktail party. I don't think they call it that anymore. They banned it or something. But anyway, there's going to be a lot of drinking going on, a lot of fun as always in Jacksonville. And I think since that Oregon win, that the Bulldogs are just kind of bored. They're going through. They almost lost to Missouri. They're kind of going through the motions, but they've won and covered their last 2 games. I think they got Florida on track here. The Gators, we all have to admit, been a major disappointment this season. We're still talking about the Utah win But some of their wins, Missouri and Eastern Washington, just not all that impressive. South Florida, I mean, those are not very good wins. So we're still talking about the Utah win, Anthony Richardson, not really doing the things that we saw in his first couple games. Not a good year for him. So I just think the Georgia defense, I mean, they just strangle people. And I think they're going to do that here in a low-scoring game, and maybe the weather with 85% chance of rain helps that out.
Yeah, that's a good point in regards to the weather and, this game being played in Jacksonville. And, Micah, you bring up a good point. Like, I hate that they got rid of, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party because that name's fantastic.
It is.
And also, yeah, it's great. Like, it's great. And then this week also, go ahead. What did you say?
Who did that name offend?
I don't know. Like that,
Everybody.
I know. It's nice. It's nicely written. Like, hey, it's a cocktail party. Like, I don't know who is offended by a good time. Tennessee and Kentucky, they got rid of the beer barrel as well. That used to be a thing. I could somewhat see that. College players, I get it. Whatever.
We still got the keg of nails. So you're allowed to do keg stands and nails, but you can't drink a cocktail or have a beer from a barrel. Come on.
Yeah. I know. Like, we're going to ban suits and black tie and catered affairs. Like, what is the matter with that? All right, Chip, coming over to you because you also have an official play in this game, and you completely agree with Micah here, under 56.5 for the game.
I really like that there's a lot of ways that this gets home. I sort of game this thing out, and I imagine a spot where Georgia wins this lopsided. But remember, and this is stunning to say going into the cocktail party game, but this is a look-ahead spot for Georgia with Tennessee on deck. Like, there is no motivation for Georgia to try to run this thing up. If they establish an advantage early, they are going to shorten this game, run that ball, and make this thing as quick as possible to be able to get out of there, put nothing on tape, and start getting ready for Tennessee. There is also, like, how does Florida cover in this game? Well, I think that it means the defense has to, step up and do something that, frankly, it hasn't done a lot, which is be able to go and get stops. And then finally, why has Georgia's passing attack not been as explosive? They've had a lot of injuries at the wide receiver position. I was going back and looking for the latest injury updates on 247 Sports. Looks like Jalen Carter, start offensive lineman. It's looking like he's might be back. Good for the under. Looking like A.D. Mitchell, one of the most important wide receivers, might not be back. Good for the under. So lots of ways to get home. So I like the under in this one.
Yeah, I feel you on that, and it's interesting looking at Florida's offense. Like, usually Anthony Richardson running, like, it caused a lot of problems for Tennessee. But I think that falls right into exactly what Georgia wants them to do. Like, yeah, keep running. You're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to score. You're going to run the clock for us. Yeah, that's a fascinating look. I like that a lot. Also, this game's always played in Jacksonville, but they found it, this weekend perfectly because London gets the Jaguars and the Broncos. You're welcome, London. Enjoy that game. Have fun with that. All right. Now, Micah, you have a lean, not official play. You lean on the under with these guys as well. So feel free to add what you would like. And Fetcho, follow him up.
Mike already talked about it.
I'm sorry. I meant Fornelli. Yeah. I'm sorry. Fornelli. Yeah. Sorry. Fornelli. Yeah. You have an under that you lean there. And Fetcho, you're a Florida graduate. And you're leaning Georgia with the points. So Fornelli, go first. Fetcho, follow up.
Under is pretty much an auto fire for me on this one. If you look at the series history, the under has gone 7-3-1 in the last 11 years. If you look at every single trend involving Georgia as far as over-unders are concerned, good luck finding a situation in which the over seems to be the best play. And something you just mentioned, like a lot of Florida's offense kind of stems on Anthony Richardson making things happen when the play breaks down with his feet. And it works against a lot of teams, but it's not going to work against a Georgia defense that is filled with 11 guys who are just as big and fast as Anthony Richardson are. So I don't think he's going to have that kind of success. And I also think that we talked about it too, the weather for this game with the rain. I don't know how much trust the Georgia coaching staff is going to put in Stetson Bennett to be throwing a wet football all over the field. So that makes the spread a little difficult for me to trust. And as Chip mentioned, there's a bigger game next week for the Bulldogs. So I could see a very likely scenario here where Georgia gets a lead and just kind of sits on it for a while, gets out of town, and starts to get ready for the Vols.
Makes sense. Fetch out.
Yeah, as much as it pains me, I lean Georgia. Last year, Anthony Richardson made his first career start against Georgia, and they completely shut him down. He was seeing ghosts like Sam Darnold did a couple of years ago back with the Jets. The Gators thought we were getting rid of Todd Grantham, third and Grantham, where they'd always give up third and long plays. This year, the Gators rank 131st out of 131 teams in third down defense. It seems like the last 2 games against LSU, 3rd and 15 was guaranteed 19 yards. It's just been rough. I know a lot of my Gator friends and family. We're going to be partying. We'll be in Jacksonville. We'll have fun, but we're a little scared about this outcome.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. Hey, just tell Shad Khan that we all said hello.
I got you.
There you go. All right, our next game here, we've got TCU, 7th-ranked TCU, 7.5-point favorite at West Virginia, a total of 69. We have 3 official plays on here. Micah, coming over to you first again, my man. You like the over 69 here?
Yeah, and I want reasons to take West Virginia. That's a tough place to play. That's a tough place for TCU squad to travel 1,200 miles all the way across there and then play in the morning game on Saturday. I'm still looking at it. I'm going to try to make some excuses, but the thing that concerns me here is the running back, Tony Mathis, is out for this game. He was the reason why they did the same thing to Baylor. Baylor traveled there a couple weeks ago, and West Virginia beat them. It was a good win, and that's kind of the pattern that set me to look at West Virginia to win this game. But then you go looking at all these stats. TCU 0-4 ATS their last 4 games at West Virginia, 0-6 ATS their last 6 against West Virginia, and then the under 7-1 in their last 8 meetings. So obviously I go over on this total, but this is about TCU this year, and they're scary. They've gone over 5 of their last 6, last 5 wins. Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Oklahoma, and SMU. That's a pretty good gauntlet that they've run there. And average score 44-26. They just put points on the board. And I think this is the one game we haven't seen it yet. A little disappointing. JT Daniels, I expected so much better from him, especially he had all 5 of his offensive linemen returning. And I didn't really get the big payout on him until I think Virginia Tech and then the Baylor game. But I haven't very disappointed in his season. 10 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. Not a very good season. I think that a lot of people expected, including me. But I think they can hang in this game. And I think his passing game, even though it hasn't happened yet, I think he's going to have a better passing game against TCU in the fast pace and keep up and get this game over the total. Like the total is right at TCU's average score, 44-26. So we'll get this game over.
Yeah, and with TCU, in over team, they remind me a couple of years ago of the Kansas City Chiefs, to where they would seemingly fall behind in every single game. And you're like, this is actually great because they're going to make a comeback in the second half. Just score. 100%, man. Absolutely on that. Fornelli, coming over to you. You got official play on this game as well. And the same as Micah, the over 69. Bring it down.
Yeah, you want to talk about a classic letdown spot for a trap week here. I feel like TCU, after getting through the gauntlet it just got through, going on the road to face West Virginia is the classic spot where they could fall. But I don't like the spread. Honestly, if I'm going to bet on the outcome of the game, I would rather have the West Virginia money line than the spread. I think the best bet here is the over, though, because one of the reasons I don't really like West Virginia against the spread here is their pass defense is awful. And I feel like that is not a great thing about your team when you're about to face Max Duggan and Quentin Johnston, who have been tearing secondaries apart all season long. So I just don't know how many stops West Virginia is going to be able to get. And furthermore, they're one of the worst early down defenses in the country. TCU is one of the best early down offenses in the country. So I see the Horned Frogs being a lot of third and shorts, being able to convert, keep drives going, and then mixing in explosive plays. On the other side, TCU's defense, not exactly the most, confident group going into this game. It's hard to have confidence in them based on the way that they have played in a lot of these games. And there's been some luck involved in that TCU. If you look at the run they've been on, Dylan Gabriel got hurt in the game, so they faced a backup quarterback. Jalen Daniels got hurt against Kansas, so they faced a backup quarterback. Spencer Sanders was banged up. Last week against Kansas State, Adrian Martinez leaves the game early because he's hurt, and then the backup Will Howard comes in and gets hurt. He leaves the game, and the third string's in there for a while. And despite facing all these backup and third-string quarterbacks, TCU's defense has still been getting beat up pretty good. So I think the Mountaineers are going to be able to get some points on this one, too. I think this could be somewhat of a classic Big 12 shootout that we're used to seeing. So I like the over here more than anything.
Well said, sir. Well said there indeed. All right, now, Chip, you got official play, and you like the over. 69. So go, let it rip, man. What you got?
Let me add to the chorus of geniuses by just highlighting that West Virginia has enough dudes to be able to put points on the board. You're right. Tony Mathis, injury status might be in doubt, but CJ Donaldson is one of my favorite young running backs in the Big 12. He is going to be there. And you add Bryce Ford Wheaton at the wide receiver position. That's a guy who's going to give you like 5 to 8 really good contested catches per game. I think that we see when some of these bottom tier Power 5 conference teams, when the big dog comes to town, the few players who are like going to be going to the league or really at the top of the talent end of the spectrum, they need to be the ones to step up. And oftentimes they do. And so I think that West Virginia, this is a group that looked so bad at Texas Tech last week, but there still is enough talent to think that with no motivation issues at hand, TCU coming to town, you're playing at home. I think that West Virginia's offense has enough to put enough on the board to take this thing over.
All right, now, Fetch Show, coming over to you. Not an official play, but you lean towards TCU minus 7.5. What do you see?
I lean toward TCU minus 7.5, but I'm actually going to switch up my play a little. I'm going to play TCU minus 1.5 in the second half. Like you said, they are the Kansas City Chiefs from a couple of years ago. They seem to go down early and then just pounded it in the second half. And a lot of the reason is because all these teams have their backup quarterback going in. Maybe JT Daniels gets hurt and Garrett Green goes in, and I really like minus 1.5 in the second half there. Kendra Miller's been a beast. Max Duggan's been great, and Quentin Johnson's a stud. I think they have too many weapons for West Virginia, but I would right now take the minus 1.5 in the second half right now. But if they go up, even if they go up big, because they're just pounding it on in the second half.
Yeah, dude, no doubt. That's what Brian Dable and the New York Giants are doing right now, and it seems to be working for them as well. All right, next game here. We've got 9th-ranked Oklahoma State at 22nd-ranked Kansas State. All right, Kansas State, a 1.5-point favorite, a total of 56. We have 2 official plays on it. Micah, throwing over to you first. Oklahoma State plus 1.5.
Yeah, this is a game between TCU. This is their trash. These guys are left over. So this is what we got, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. I took Oklahoma State. I've grown into a big fan of Spencer Sanders. I just think he's resilient. He gets the job done. It's not flashy. It's awkward sometimes, and you turn your head sometimes, but he seems to get the job done, and that's what you look for. The reason I sided with Oklahoma State here is probably what I got out of hearing interviews with the coach saying they're going to check on Martinez and see how he is Thursday. It didn't sound good, but Will Howard should be good to go. He looked pretty good passing the ball last week until it fizzled out in the second half. Rushing, only 31 yards, had a TD, rush 9 rushes. So they're still trying to run the Martinez, but he's not Martinez at all as far as running and his brilliance on the field, running the ball this season and getting the wins. And that's basically it. The Oklahoma State offense, pretty good, 25th in the nation, 13th best passing team. And Kansas State has that great defense, but I think the quarterbacking will be the difference here, and I'm going to go with my man Sanders.
There we go. All right, now, Fetcho, coming over to you, buddy, because you've got an official play in this game as well, and you completely agree with Micah here. Oklahoma State plus 1.5, man.
I completely agree. We've hit on Oklahoma State as 8 picks the last 2 weeks, so why not keep it going? Since 2017, Oklahoma State as an underdog, 14-2 against the spread. They just seem to win against the spread in all these games. Gundy has these teams rolling. I think Spencer Sanders looked pretty healthy last week. He lit up a pretty good defense last week. I mean, I think they win this game outright. I like the money line even better. Give me Oklahoma State.
There we go. All right. Now, get that off the screen right there. All right. So Chip and Tom, not official plays here. Tom, you lean Oklahoma State plus 1.5 as well.
Yeah, it's not official just because I don't know for certain what Kansas State's quarterback situation is going to be. But I agree with Jacob and Micah here. I mean, Adrian Martinez is listed as questionable. Will Howard's still listed as questionable. While I fully expect him to play, Deuce Vaughn also listed as questionable with an undisclosed injury that he suffered last week in the loss to TCU. So those are far too many question marks for me to want to put a lot of faith in Kansas State right now. And I also think, honestly, Oklahoma State's just the more complete team. So if I am putting anything in on here, I like the Cowboys getting the 1.5.
All right. Now, Chip, coming over to you. Not an official play as well, but you lean the other side. Kansas State minus 1.5.
Yeah. just the idea that maybe this line moves a little bit if all of a sudden we get a flood of good news for Kansas State. If all of a sudden, it is Adrian Martinez and Deuce Vaughn are both going to be playing. The game's in Manhattan. I lean Kansas State to win if that happens. And so that's why for my lean at this point in the week, I would say just take Kansas State, but it is a firm do not play until we find out a little bit more about those key injuries in the offensive backfield.
Yep. Makes sense, man. Makes sense. All right. Our next game here, 19th ranked Kentucky at 3rd ranked Tennessee. Tennessee a 12.5-point favorite, total of 63.5. We have one official play on the game. Micah, coming over to you, man. Do you like the over 63.5?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
Yes.
The thing that kind of leads me to this, I was looking at last year's box score, and then I heard Will Levis talking about, to stay in this game, we need to keep Tennessee's offense off the field, and we need to, have 12, 13 play drives and score each time. And I was like, that sounds like a great plan. Yeah, I like that idea. This could be an under. And then I went last year, they did the exact same thing. That was 45-42 at Kentucky. Kentucky held the ball 46 minutes. Tennessee only 14 minutes, and they got 45 points out of it on the win. So it worked perfectly last season. Home crowd edge, a little different here. I think it's going to be a lot of scoring. And even though Kentucky wants to slow this game down, as soon as Tennessee gets it, they're scoring. And it's going to score a lot. And I just give Kentucky's defense a benefit of the doubt, is why I'm not playing Tennessee to win this game. But I've seen enough out of Tennessee right now. They are one of the best teams in the country. And this isn't a letdown spot at all. They got a lot of rest last week. They played Tennessee Martin, right? So, but the Bama, LSU, Florida run, that's pretty impressive. I like Tennessee here, but I like the over as the official play that I'm put money on.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you. And look, you're looking at the fastest team in the SEC and the slowest team in the SEC, but exactly like what you just said, Tennessee actually forces Kentucky to play faster, and Tennessee's defense will give up points, right?
And
so the over.
One other point too, AB, sorry. Over 11-1, last 12 home games for Tennessee. 11-1. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, very good. And I'll say this, I'll add one more thing with you. Anybody that bets Tennessee first quarters with us week after week, Tennessee has outscored opponents this season 96-24 in the first quarter this year. Like you said, Micah, Josh Heupel just wants to get the ball and score. And it's funny, we talked about coming into the UT Martin game last Saturday morning. This team's too young to even know what a hangover is. Like, they just score. That's all they know how to do, man. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one. All right. No other official plays, but Chip and Tom, you both lean Tennessee, minus 12.5. So, Chip, start it. Tom, finish him up. And then Fetner, we'll get to you on a team total play.
Yeah, these cats like to purr. These cats like to cuddle you. These cats are not the Wildcats we are used to from Mark Stoops. That offensive line, which has put players in the NFL and played with real edge to it, allowed Chris Rodriguez to be the heart of this team. And they're kind of getting beat up in the trenches. And do y'all remember the hits that Bryce Young took in Knoxville? Like, this Tennessee pass rush can get after it. And I think Will Levis is in a lot of trouble. I don't think Kentucky's offense is going to be able to keep pace. And I think that Tennessee is going to be able to score. I mean, this is a group that it does not seem to matter the caliber of the defense. Like, I think Alabama's defense is really, really, really good. Way better than Kentucky's defense. And still, they got those matchup problems. It's just what Tennessee does. Yeah, give me Tennessee. They win this thing by at least 2 touchdowns.
Yep. Tom?
Yeah, I just don't. I mentioned it earlier with the Wake Forest Louisville matchup. I just don't think Kentucky can keep up on offense. I think that maybe they can slow the Tennessee offense down a little bit, but even then I'm not super confident in the ability to do that, because if you look at the matchup on the other side of the ball, Kentucky is a team that tries to run the ball. It's really all they can do. Like, they take deep shots in the passing game, but they are not an efficient passing offense. It's pound the rock, find a guy deep on a vert and a blown coverage. Will Levis flings the ball 70 yards. Hopefully he runs underneath it. But you're not going to be able to run against this Tennessee team. They rank 10th nationally in success rate, defensive success rate against the run. And Chip, you touched on it too. Pressure rate. Tennessee's defense ranks 17th nationally in pressure rate on opposing quarterbacks. Kentucky's offense ranks 116th in pressure rate allowed. Will Levis is under fire every single time he drops back into the pocket. The offensive line can't block anybody. They're not going to be able to block Tennessee. I just don't see the Wildcats being able to keep up here. I think Tennessee and laying the points is the best play available here.
Yeah, and let me say this. For anybody that's watching that's nowhere near either of these two states, don't underestimate the absolute hatred that both of these two fan bases have for each other. I live about 35 minutes away from the Kentucky State border. I assure you, like, Tennessee fans in Neyland Stadium are going to be rabid because these two fan bases absolutely hate the hell out of each other. So there you go on that. All right, now, Fetner, you lean on a team total. Kentucky team total under 25.5. What do you see?
Yeah, Kentucky's scoring 21.5 points per game in SEC play. Their offense just hasn't looked great. Will Levis has struggled. He hasn't looked great. He hasn't looked like a top 5 pick that everyone's billing him out to be. His numbers look better than he's actually performing. They're a little misleading. I was on LSU team total under 30 against Tennessee earlier in the season. That hit. I like it here. I am scared to play an under. Maybe I will go with Tennessee minus 3.5 in the first quarter. Keep riding those Tennessee first quarter plays. I think Will Levis struggles, especially with Tennessee's run defense. Like Tom says, they're very underrated run defense.
Yeah, let me just say, you could go ahead and put me down on that Tennessee first quarter minus 3.5. You can just write me down on that one. All right, our last game here. We got second-ranked Ohio State, a 15.5-point favorite at Penn State. Hey, the dog likes it. There we go.
Moose likes it.
Yeah, at 13th ranked Penn State, total of 61. Only one official play. Micah, coming over to you. Penn State plus 15.5. Break it down, my man.
Yeah, dogs are barking. I got to take the points here because, well, it happens all the time, right? I mean, Ohio State 1-5 ATS their last 6 against Penn State. Ohio State comes in rocking, right? This number 2 defense, 239 yards a game, number 4 offense, passing, running. They do everything perfect. And they've gone over their last 5 games. They've covered their last 5. They destroyed Iowa 54-10 last week. They just have everything going on. Like, it seems so easy to lay the points. And the thing I have with Penn State, Sean Clifford last week, I was pretty impressed by him. I mean, really, I was like, wow, this is good. And I was like, maybe he's got enough. Not to win the game, maybe, but stay close. And that just gave me it gave me some confidence in taking Penn State and the points here, which usually I'm on Ohio State in this game, and you can tell how I've done in the past year. So Buckeyes, have not done well covering the numbers here, the big numbers. So I'm taking the points. I really wish this game was like 7 o'clock Eastern time, and the crowd, they're going to do the stripe thing and all that. It seems like it loses effect when it's at 9 in the morning. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take the points here.
Yeah, I feel you on that. It's not a 9 a.m. game. Like, it should be a primetime game for sure. Okay, all right. So Chip, not official play, but you lean Penn State plus 15.5 as well, man. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, it's the James Franklin not losing by as many as the Vegas experts think special. I mean, Penn State playing at home with a series history of being able to cover the number and a number that's being set above 2 touchdowns. Not an official play. You know what this is, honestly? This might just be what I hope. This might just be me hoping to see that Ohio State turns this into an does not, blow this thing away, and that Penn State makes it an entertaining game. No official play, but rivalry history here says that Penn State loses close.
All right. Tom, not official play, but you lean Ohio State 15.5. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm just not going to get fooled by Penn State looking good against Minnesota. I still think that this is a very flawed team, and I think that if you watch Penn State, when they can run the ball, they're actually very good. When they can't run the ball, there's a whole lot of problems, and I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball against Ohio State. If you look at them defensively, the Buckeyes rank 4th nationally in defensive success rate against the run, and they rank 5th nationally in expected points added per rush against them. They're an elite run defense, and I think that they will be able to overwhelm this Penn State offensive line and force this to become another situation where Sean Clifford kind of has to put the team on his back and do everything with his arm. And Sean Clifford, better than most people think, but he's not good enough to beat Ohio State by himself in this game. And I also think last week, the Buckeyes put up 54 points against Iowa, but overall, that was not a very good offensive performance. They did a lot of that damage in the second half after the game was pretty much wrapped up. If you look at CJ Stroud's numbers in the first half of the game, they were not pretty. There was, and actually they could have been worse with a couple interceptions that he got lucky to avoid and a couple fantastic catches from Marvin Harrison on some throws that were inaccurate. I think Ohio State's probably going to come into this game trying to get right on offense. And I think that even though Penn State's defense is solid and they have a very good secondary, I just don't think there's a secondary in the country that can cover all the receivers Ohio State have. So I look for them to bounce back in a statement game, looking to make a point here to let everybody know that, hey, we haven't played the most difficult schedule yet, but we are still one of the best teams in the country, and we are a legitimate national title contender. So I think the Buckeyes are going to win in a rout.
Yes, they are. And that wide receiver core, you're right. I mean, it is ridiculous. It's ridiculous every single year. Fetter, bring us home here. Not an official play, but you pretty much agree with Fornelli here. You lean towards the Ohio State team total over 37.5.
Yeah, I like it that you could get it in at 37.5. And I think there's a good chance they put up 38 in this game. They've just have so many weapons. That wide receiver group's insane, and they lost a couple first rounders from last year. It's just unbelievable. And I think it comes down to the first 10 minutes of the game. If Ohio State gets off to like a 14-0 lead, I think Penn State kind of gets down on themselves, and then Ohio State just runs up the score. But if Penn State shows that they're in it early, I think my pick's in trouble a little. But I like them to put up points here.
There we go, man. There we go. All right, everybody, grab your paper, grab your pencil. Let's take a little recap here. There we go. Tom Fornelli is on TCU, West Virginia, over 69. Notre Dame plus 2.5. Wake Forest -4. Cal plus 17.5. Michigan State team total under 16.5. Jacob Fettner is on the Iowa team total under 23.5. Nebraska team total under 20.5. Colorado State, Boise State under 43. North Carolina -3. Oklahoma State plus 1.5. And Fettner, did you add anything in the show?
Yeah, Wake -4.
Wake Forest -4. There we go. All right, Chip Patterson is on. Pitt, there we go. Pitt, North Carolina, over 64.5. Wake Forest -4. TCU, West Virginia, over 69. Rutgers, Minnesota, under 41. Utah, Washington State, over 55. Florida, Georgia, under 56.5. And my man, Micah Roberts here on Northwestern, Iowa, under 37.5. Syracuse, -2.5. Florida, Georgia, under 56.5. TCU, West Virginia, over 69. Oklahoma State, plus 1.5. Kentucky, Tennessee, over 63.5. And Penn State, plus 15.5. All right. How we end every single show. First off, thank you guys so much. I know how busy you guys are. It means the world that you would join us, break these games down for us. So thank you on that. But I want to give you guys a second to highlight what you are working on this week and weekend and what we should be checking out. So Micah Roberts, what you got coming, buddy?
Yeah, NASCAR article dropped today. Martinsville. This is the 35th of 36 races on the season. It is also the round of 8 finale. So 4 drivers get chopped from the playoffs. 4 drivers move on for the championship at Phoenix.
There we go, man. Tom Fornelli, what do you got, buddy?
Cover 3 podcasts 4 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, live on YouTube. You can also subscribe on every single podcast app out there. And also Saturday nights around 11:30 Eastern, usually in the evening, we go with a live reaction show for the Saturday games. And you can read every single word I write on CBSSports.com. Just look for this beautiful face and the words beneath it.
Yeah, who doesn't want to do that? And let me say, Chip, right before I come to you, we said on this show last week that if you went and followed them, the Cover 3 podcast on YouTube, Apple, Stitcher, wherever you consume it, video, audio, that you would have good karma. And you know what? I hit every single pick on Friday coming into Saturday, and I put that on everyone who followed and did as they were asked to do. So I'm just saying it again, man. Like, if you want good karma this weekend, that's how you do it. Follow them. Chip, what do you got?
Yeah, immediate future, 11 a.m. Thursday, Cover 3 Lock Show, 10 a.m. Friday, Early Edge, Friday, 4 p.m., the CBS Sports HQ Cover 3 Podcast Takeover on CBS Sports HQ. Saturday, catch me pregame, halftime, postgame for Florida, Georgia, CBS Sports HQ. And Saturday night, around 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Week 9 Instant Reaction. And reminder, don't get trapped.
I love it, man. And Fettner, we will get your update next week on how the model did. But everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be live next week for week 10 of college football and see how we get out of this trap week there. But as always, best of luck. Let's cash these tickets. We'll see you next week. Thanks.